Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be ranking AP classes based on their usefulness in college. I suck at intros, you'll figure it out as we go. Let's get right into it with AP US History. Now AP US History, the knowledge base, I don't know if it's that useful in college. In the class itself, the credit is probably just some random gen ed you may or may not need. For my school, there's a civics literacy requirement that it goes for, but overall AP US History isn't that useful. It does give some credit though, so I'll move it into, say, the C tier. AP World, I feel like, is probably similar, but it doesn't have that civics literacy requirement that my school has. So that puts it a little lower on my thinking of it. So I'm going to say D tier. Now, AP Stats. AP Stats does provide a good knowledge base that you possibly will need for future classes. And some people do need stats in their major. I'm looking more at like STEM majors specifically because I personally am in engineering. So I think stats can be important, but it depends on if your school takes the stats class for what's actually needed. So I'm also going to put that in C tier because I'm not really sure if it's that useful based on what you need for your degree requirements. Now, I'm going to do Lang and Lit together. They're a little different in how they're looked at depending on the school. So I'm going to go for mine specifically, and then I'll go down and kind of look at the differences that can possibly be seen. For me specifically, Lang was very important because for my first year, I was able to get out of my written language requirement with Lang. Some schools, however, don't take Lang on its own, and they need Lit to go along with it. And some, it may not even be useful at all because they just need Lit. So there kind of is like a range of different possibilities depending on the school you go to. So overall, I think it's reasonable to go in the A tier because it is useful for more schools than not. Moving on to Lit, it is, again, my school does take Lit. I go to Purdue, but it's only a gen ed that isn't very useful, where it doesn't go for that written requirement because Lang already does that. So I think it's not as useful. Other schools do need both to actually get through that language requirement, but some also don't even take Lit at all. But I think Lang is more useful than Lit, so I think Lit is reasonable to go in the B tier. Macro and micro, my school also has an econ requirement, but realistically, you only need one of them. So I think this ranking is going to go for both of them the same, but the expectation is you only need one, you don't need both. But I think that macro and micro are very useful for any major, so I think I would put both of them in the A tier because they do give you a useful credit. AP Biology, it's a general intro class that you would need for, say, a lab science or a general elective. And if you're a bio major or a regular science major, you might need a biology class. But I think that there is better alternatives to biology if you're not a bio major, such as like AP Chem or AP Physics, possibly, if you're more in the engineering, computer science route. So I think biology isn't as useful in that, and it's kind of just a regular gen ed for a non-bio major where there's better alternatives. So I'm going to put it into a C tier. Next, we got Calc BC and Calc AB. I'm going to also do these together, but I think there's clear differences. Calc BC, a general requirement for Calc 1 and Calc 2, which is very important for most majors. And they're generally weed out classes, which means they're a lot harder in college than they would be in high school. So getting those out of the way from an easier weighted exam that gives you a lot easier and better opportunity to get a 4 or 5 on it. BC is a great opportunity to get out of Calc 1 and 2. So I'm actually going to put that in the S tier because Calc 1 and 2 are pretty hard classes in a lot of colleges. And getting those math classes out of the way, being able to move to advanced more quickly. And for some majors, you could be done with math in general, which is really helpful. And then AB does get you halfway to that, only getting you out of Calc 1, which I think is less useful because you still have that one calc class you do have to take, and you don't have that background of the college style of teaching a math class that BC kind of avoids for you, where you don't have to take 1 and 2. You kind of just are put into multivariable, which is a different thing in general. So I think AB does lower it a little bit, only getting you out of Calc 1. I'm going to put that in the B tier. AP Chem, I was talking about this a little bit with bio. It's another lab science. It's a general class that you need for your first year for a lot of majors. But I think it's a lot more useful than biology in getting you that lab science. And there's a lot more majors that do need it if you're a chem-based major or some engineering-based majors. Obviously, if you're like, say, a liberal arts or a business major, it may not be as useful, but from my perspective, I think chem is pretty good, and I'm going to put above bio in the B tier, kind of similar to AB, where it gets you out of general elective classes, even though for me, chem gets out of 2 chem credits, both those lab science classes that a lot of majors need. Moving on to AP Euro, I think it's pretty similar to US. It's just a general elective class that you need for a history credit, say, or if you're a history major, it's probably useful there. But I put it more with world where it doesn't have that extra requirement that would make it helpful. So, but it kind of is more useful than world in the perspective of how it's taught to be about world concepts. And I think just on content in general, it would move it into the C tier. Moving on to AP Environmental Science, my school does not actually give any useful credit at all. It's just random undistributed credit for AP Environmental Science. So my perspective, it's not useful at all. I trashed on the class enough in my first AP tier ranking that you could check out. So I'm just going to put it in F and leave it there. AP Physics 2, I'm also just going to move it into the F tier because it's just not advanced enough to have any useful credit for school. And the physics you would be doing in college is going to be more advanced than what Physics 2 teaches you. And it's not going to give you that base that you need. And it's honestly just a waste of the credit as it's just undistributed. Research and seminar also do not get any credit from my school that's useful. It's just random credit. But I think research and seminar are a little better in terms of compared to physics 2 because it gives you a baseline. I never took them, but a baseline of research and understanding of getting a topic, going through the topic, making a report about the topic, which can be a useful general topic for college. So I think that's reasonable enough to move those into the D tier. Now, there are a lot of languages. I'm going to just rank Spanish and then just assume it goes for all of them because they're pretty much the same. Languages, a lot of majors have language requirements. If you want to do a minor in a language, you can basically get through most of it with getting the AP credit. And languages in general give you practically all of your gen eds that are necessary. So it's extremely useful. I would put most languages in the S tier besides Latin, which I'll put it like C because Latin is useless. And then there's, say, Spanish literature, which is even less useful because I think that gets you out of not the language requirements, doesn't get you all those classes that you would get with the language. And the literature class is just not as useful. It only really gets you out of one random gen ed, so I'm also going to put it D with the other random gen ed classes. Skipping through all the languages, we got the art classes. If you're an art major, it's probably useful. I'm not aware of it. My school doesn't give any credit for the art classes, so I'm just going to assume that all of these would be going in F just for space. I'll just put all of them there so the F tier looks fuller. Moving on to music theory, I have no clue what my school uses it for. If you're a music major, it might be useful. I don't know. Music is kind of cool, but similar to art, so just gonna move it there. Human geography, again, another random gen ed class. My school has a science, tech, and society credit that goes for. So I guess it's useful in that perspective that it does fulfill a graduation requirement that is necessary for a core curriculum. So that'll put it maybe similar to US history, where random gen ed, but it follows a requirement. So I'll put that in the C tier. These aren't really in the order of how they would fit in the tier. I'm kind of just putting them in the order I see them because it just makes it easier. Now moving on to AP Computer Science A and Computer Science Principles. These both go for the same class at my school, and they're both credit that I can't actually use in my engineering major. It's not advanced enough. And for CS majors, it's also not advanced enough. So it's kind of just a baseline. I think the importance is a baseline into coding, which is very helpful. And also a lot of majors actually can use the credit, and maybe other schools, the credit in an AP computer science class is useful enough. But I think just for baseline knowledge, computer science A is a lot better. And for me, it gets out of the same class as principles. So I think I would put A in C, and that's the wrong class. There it is, principles in D. AP Physics 1, it's the same as AP Physics 2. It just doesn't give you useful enough credit, so it's going to go in F tier. AP Psychology, if you're a psych major, it gets you out of your base psychology class. It's a random gen ed for everybody else. but I think it is a base gen ed that a lot of people take because a lot of people like getting, say, psychology minor. Psychology is a popular major, so I think psychology is pretty good. I don't know if it's good enough to get it up into, say, the B tier, but I would put it in the C tier. As you'll notice, a lot of these AP classes aren't very useful unless you have a specific major designed for them, or you need it for a specific graduation requirement for your school specifically, or you want to take it for that specific gen ed that you want, or you have a specific minor or requirement that you want to get. It's basically just up to you on what you want to do. Obviously, the S tier would be a lot fuller if I put all these languages here, but I don't want to move all of them. I guess I can move all of them just to make it less confusing. AP US Gov, again, it's similar to US history. It goes for the same civics literacy requirement that I had before. It's good to know about the government, I guess. So if you look at content wise, that's important. So I think that does put it above US history. It's also another base common gen ed that can lead to other classes. I'm sure political science, it's very useful to get base government classes out of the way. So I'll put that in B tier just because I'm sure there's a large range of majors that it is useful for. AP Comparative Gov is similar to US Gov, probably less useful. I'll kind of just leave it at that and put it in the C tier. And last, but certainly not least for AP classes, is AP Physics C Mechanics and E&M. Both of these at my school go for a base physics class that is necessary for engineering majors, and also if you have a lab science requirement in other classes, it'll go for that, similar to chem. But these classes are generally a lot harder in college than the chem class would be. They take up a lot of time, they have difficult concepts, so getting them out of the way in high school is very important. I didn't actually do these in high school, I wish I did, but I think they're very useful to getting classes out of the way that would be harder and also necessary for your major to get to more useful classes or maybe more specific to what you want to do. But overall, I think that physics classes are important in the AP curriculum to get you college credit. I want to put mechanics and E&M both in the A tier, not only because I think they're useful, it also evens out the tier ranking a little bit. So overall, this is kind of what I believe is a good baseline of how useful AP classes and the credit that goes along with these AP classes are going to be for you in college. And I think that as you go along, you kind of get your own base understanding of what your school and your major and what it means for you to be able to actually get all of these AP credits and how you can use them to be successful in your major and your college experience. So I hope this was at least slightly helpful for you. Maybe you have just gotten your AP scores back and you look at what credit you'll get out of them, or you're thinking about what AP classes you want to take for the future, and hopefully this will help you understand which classes you may or may not want to take. I do, even though I didn't do it, I do recommend language classes. I can say words, and a calculus class, or even a physics class and a English class that can get you out of those requirements. Physics and calc are overall very important for a STEM-based major. Language is important for all majors, and then you have your business majors, your poli-sci majors, your liberal arts majors that will get you all of these general classes that are more history-based, and obviously history majors, it's probably useful for them. But overall, it's depending on your major and your school. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you again soon.